Fletcher Rhoden, and this is Quotes and Quips. Today, words of wisdom from Maya Angelou. Quotes and Quips is brought to you by my website, FletcherRhoden.com. That's where you'll find links to my author's page at Amazon.com. That's where you can buy my books in paperback or for Kindle or an audiobook format. There's also a link on my website to my Spotify artist page. That's where you can download my records in their various subgenres. Last year I had a full record set called Quadrilogy, and this year I've got a brand new album called I'm Possible. Now you can download that not just from Spotify, but from any of your favorite download sites. At my website, however, there is free music and other exclusive things you can only get there, so check it out. Maya Angelou, the great American poet, tells us this: there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story within you. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story within you. Now, she's a writer, a great poet, well deserving of her praise and her sterling reputation. And for a writer, this is true. Writing is a hard life. It often goes unrewarded. For every Stephen King, there are, millions of Fletcher Rhodens. For every Joe Esterhaus, there are millions of Fletcher Rhodens. Writing is an often thankless task. I mean, I'm not without my satisfaction. I do have fans. And I do get good reviews, and I appreciate them. Even the occasional fan email or two. But it's essentially a thankless life. And it's one spent largely in isolation. And it's rough. It's not easy to be a writer. I've dedicated a lot of my life to it. So you do it not only because you think it's a good way to be rich, because frankly, it's not a good way to be rich. If you want to be rich, there are plenty of ways to be rich that are easier and more effective and will have a greater success rate than trying to be a successful writer. I promise you that. It can be done. And it can be done with varying degrees of success. I've done well as a ghostwriter, but I'm somewhere in the middle there, in the big soup of writers. But it's not something that any reasonable person would do thinking, oh, here's a good get-rich-quick scheme. It's not that. Okay? So you do it not only because you think that it can pay off. There is that. But mostly a writer writes because they have to. It's sort of compulsory. It's like, I gotta get this out. I gotta say this. If I die, I might regret never having written that book. I had a story inside me and I never told it. And now, here I am, let's say on my deathbed, thinking, oh, the world will never know. I don't think anyone's going to die thinking, oh, I could have been more wealthy, I would have been happier if I'd had more money, and I would have had more money if I'd had greater success. I think when you're dying, look at things that way. I don't really know. I've never been in that position, and I hope not to be for a long, long time. But I do know this. When I die, and that's going to happen sometime, unless there's some information out there that I don't have yet. But when I do go, I'm going to be able to say I told just about every story I had to tell. Now, probably not all of them, because I got a few that I'm just not going to tell. And, I've told a lot of stories. I've written a lot of books. I am dead set on not writing any more books or telling any more. I do have a few more stories. I'm just not going to bother to tell them unless somebody wants to pay me to do it. So if I go to the grave with one or two extras, well, that's my little secret. That's my little funsy. But I definitely will go thinking, hey, I told so many great stories. And I told every story I could think of to tell almost, 98% of them. And that's great. I don't mind taking a few with me, but I left behind all the great ones. And that is a relief. I will go to my grave. Also, not only just stories, books, but songs, music. You know, how terrible it would be to go to my grave thinking, I never did learn to play guitar. When I was a kid, I learned to play guitar when I was about, I think I started when I was 11. And everybody said, oh, he'll give it up. He's going to quit this after a few weeks. We'll buy him a guitar and it'll sit in the closet and he'll never follow up on this. But I did. And I had a terrible accident when I was a year later, when I was 12, and I lost a bit of the tip of my finger, my left ring finger, in a door jab, and it was terribly painful. And everyone thought, well, he's not going to keep playing guitar after this. But I actually created a metal thing, because they gave me like a splint over my finger while it was healing. And once it healed, I used that thing to create sort of a sheath over the top of my finger as an artificial fingertip to try to keep playing guitar with like a prosthetic fingertip that I created myself when I was 12. It didn't work. But I did persevere, and I kept learning, and my finger healed, and I could use it, and I can still use it for, it's not great for some things, but it's perfectly useful for others. And so I kept learning, and I kept growing, and it would have been, and I learned, and I've written 600 plus songs in my life. I've got lots of CDs available. I got a new CD for this year, I'm Possible, which is what I thought when I was a kid. I'm possible. This is possible. I can do this. So I didn't listen to people, and I didn't put the guitar away. I learned how to play it, and I'm a bloody good guitar player too, and a darn fine songwriter if I don't mind saying so. I can even sing passively. I can do a lot with the instrument I've been given. Let's just put it that way. So I will, if I die, when I die, I will die with satisfaction, knowing if I'd never learned to play guitar, if I'd put it away after the finger accident, I would have always thought, what if I'd continued with that? I could have continued with that. Maybe I should have. That would have been a story untold. That would be dying with a story untold, or living with it. You know, they say in life you only regret the things you don't do. You only regret the things you didn't try. That's what Maya Angelou is saying. Those are the stories that are untold inside us. Not always because we're writers, and I really want to write that story about the ex-cop who stands in front of the school and causes a stir. Or, gee, I wish I'd written that Sigma book. That could have helped a lot of Sigmas out there. Well, I wrote my books. And I do not bear the agony of a story untold. And even doing this sort of helps me to tell my story and the stories of other people. To people who are interested in their own stories, who may tell their stories to the benefit of others. So it keeps, it's a self-regenerating kind of thing. And it should be. There is no greater agony than bearing within you a story untold. I think Maya Angelou is right about this. And it's not just, it's not just about playing guitar or writing songs or writing books. It's about telling your story to people you love. It's about expressing your love. What if you spent all of your life in an unrequited love situation where you never told that person how you felt? Well, that's an agony for you. And there probably is no greater agony than bearing that untold story in your soul. What about the guilt you might feel about abuses that you've done? We've all wronged people. Now, some of us, you just have to learn to live with how much of it you can live with. We all have some shame for what we've done. We all, I hope, I certainly don't look back on everything I've done with pride. I wish there were things I've said and done that I could take back. Can't. But I would certainly apologize. Because I would not want to bear the brunt of that untold apology. I would want to tell whoever that... One time, there was a girl I picked on in junior high school. And before a 30-year reunion, I contacted her, Sarah Gossage. And I just said, I want to tell you how badly I feel about how I mistreated you. And you didn't deserve it, and I was just acting out, and I was wrong. And she was very cool. She was like, don't worry about it. I did the same thing to someone else. We all do that. It's cool. You know? And that was good. I felt very good to be lightened of that burden. Because that was the burden of a story untold. It's not just about writing books, or singing songs, or learning the guitar. It's about what we carry around with us and getting those off of our chests, getting those off of our souls. You know, there are many fictive examples of death wherein, I'm thinking of a Tim Robbins book. I think it's Still Life with Woodpeckers, where there's a king, there's an ancient society that believes that if you die without remorse, then your soul is light enough to go to heaven, but your earthly regrets weigh down your soul after death. And we don't want to go. You don't want to die with regrets. You don't want to go to the hereafter with a lot of untold stories, with a lot of regrets. But remember that those stories aren't just about being a writer, or being a singer, or doing whatever. They're about being a person and integrating with other people who you know. Many of them you claim to love. Some of them you may not know at all. But does that matter? Well, that's something that we might ask Maya Angelou if she ever pops by. Wouldn't that be a hoot? Until then, you're going to be stuck with me here on Quotes and Quips. I'm here on Mondays, every other Mondays, here on this YouTube channel throughout 2025. On alternating Mondays, you can see my new show, Fletcher Rhoden's Pet Peeves. You can also watch reruns of Quotes and Quips from 2024 on this channel. There's also my 2023 show, Tracking the Lone Wolf, on its own YouTube channel, right here on YouTube, Tracking the Lone Wolf. So check all that out. Go to my website, download some of my books and some of my music, and enjoy those things. My new album is called I'm Possible, and so are you. So tune into all this, tune in again, and until then, bye, Mary.